Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of Ted Talks. I'm here with Andy,
That's got.
and
Hello, everyone.
we're going to kick it off straight away with just addressing a comment that we had on the first podcast about open-mindedness. Do you want
Yeah,
to read the comment out, or
yeah.
do you know where you're going to go?
I'll read that comment out so that we're accurate with it.
Hopefully, you enjoyed the last episode, episode 2, where we delved a bit deeper into HK, holographic kinetics. Any comments on any of the podcasts, obviously feel free to leave them in the comments and we will address, if appropriate, we'll address those.
Yeah. So this comment came from Springbean19, and it was regarding open-mindedness. It said, "I want to say something about open-mindedness. It is broadly considered to be a very positive trait, but can have a downside. If we compare the mind to a TV receiver and imagine that it can pick up every channel in the whole world, it would become very difficult to find and select the best thing to watch. You would also waste a lot of time. There comes a point on the spiritual quest when you must find a lot of focus and concentration, or you will find yourself treading water, just drifting along." Now, it's a very good point. And it really goes to show that whatever you talk about here or in generally can be broken down and dissected into the minutiae. So really what I'm trying to do in this podcast is just getting people who do happen to switch on and look and listen, it's just getting them to open their minds up a little bit to possibilities, to things that they haven't considered before.
Yeah.
Because we are living in an age, everyone can see it, we're living in an age where there's a lot of change going on.
Yeah.
Everyone is aware that there is a huge mental health crisis going on out there. And that's not just in this country, we're talking in the Western world, globally, however you want to word it. Plainly speaking, we know that there's something different going on in the world to what people have ever experienced before. I have people saying to me, you go and get your hair cut, or you speak to people, bump into in the shops or at the gym, the sauna, who are just absolutely flabbergasted with what's going on in the world. And because of that, there is a huge difference in how we're living our lives.
Yeah.
And one of the points I wanted to make was everyone, generally the collective, are just one big decision away from suffering from mental health issues.
Yeah.
So you might speak to someone who's just lost their job. Now what are they going to do? And all of a sudden, all of this pressure that's built up over the years, but they're kind of just treading water, they're just getting by. All of a sudden, it's like the analogy of a dam. You can have little holes poking through, and then a big hole appears, a big crack, and say losing your job, no income, and bang, that dam can go.
Yeah.
It may be a relationships. We know relationships are really struggling these days because there's so much pressure on. So the pressure that goes on with having to pay the bills, having to survive in this world without lots of pressure coming on from outside, whether it be your energy companies, whether it be your banks, etc., your landlord. We know that those pressures have been gaining and gaining and gaining. So if that has an effect on everyday relationships. So the moment a relationship goes down because it's under all this pressure, where's that person then? All of a sudden, they haven't got two incomes coming in, for example. They've now got to find themselves somewhere to live separately, and with the rising costs of houses and rent. I mean, I heard that locally, just a two bed terraced house looking at £900 a month for rent.
Yeah.
And
Plus.
Yeah, that's
the minimum. Yeah.
And so people who were living fairly comfortable lives are now really struggling, and they don't know what to do. And you can see the mental health is it's getting worse. So going back to the open-mindedness thing, the comment that was made there was, I'll just reread that bit because it's important. It's a very important point that he made. There comes a point on the spiritual quest when you must find a lot of focus and concentration. So that's
completely agree with that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is more for those who have been on this journey for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, you do need to find more focus, which is why I said in that previous video in answer to Spring Bean, when he made that comment, that open-mindedness, which I've always had, but I've developed that now. And I said in that video that I will accept any information that comes in and put it on the back shelf. I'm not focusing on it. I'm not spending and wasting my time on it. The comment about being open-mindedness was more for those guys who realise something's going on in the world, things are changing.
Yeah.
How am I going to deal with this? Because you are going to have to deal with it. Whether you like it or not, you're going to have to deal with the shit that's happening.
I think that's where exactly the open-mindedness comes in, is you're going to have to step out the comfort zone, maybe step into a different path of what you're used to. Maybe not deal with it the same way you've dealt with things before, and that's where the mind has got to be open and resourceful, and look for different ways to deal with the situations, or find different opportunities in which you can maneuver to obviously tackle what is happening in the world.
I think it was Einstein that said, even though Einstein himself, there's question marks over his validity, etc. But it was a great saying, is you cannot fix a problem, I'm ad-libbing a bit here, but you cannot fix a problem with the same mindset that created it.
Yeah.
So you have to, it's necessary now to start thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
Because you know damn well that the modern way of dealing with, the collective way of dealing with trauma or stress, depression, etc., go to the doctors. I mean, they're handing out depression pills for depression if you go in and you're not sleeping, or you got a backache. Or speaking to people during the week who said, "Yeah, I was offered depression because I went in with this ailment or that ailment." He said, "I threw the prescription back at him," and you're just like, "Well, there's another game altogether with what's going on in the mental health industry and with the doctors and stuff like that. That's, we don't want to go down that road of why. If anyone wants to know why, those sort of things, and we can delve down that road. But really, you're going into the world of conspiracy, which again we addressed last week, and that is just a case of, well, you have to look beyond what you're being told, because what you're being told by the collective, by the mainstream, doesn't make any sense. It's a contradiction, and any contradiction, and this is a really key thing, really, I've always enjoyed this saying, because it just ties up a contradiction. I think this comes out of common law. I think when I was listening to a lot of Cole Lentz, the kingpin of common law, he literally stated a contradiction can only be one of two things: a mistake or a lie. Can't be anything else. So you then look into, well, which is it? And when it comes from an individual, it may just be you can see it more as a mistake because they may have just got a bit confused, or they haven't delved into enough of the subject to be able to answer that properly and understand it. Whereas when it's coming from the collective, from the mainstream, should I say, where they have these huge think tanks putting out information, nothing's ever put out randomly.
No. Purpose behind everything. Because
it's money and it's power. And if you think that it's all just random and they didn't really, come on. I mean,
open your eyes a little bit.
You have to be, seriously, you cannot keep on making these excuses up.
Yeah.
So they're coming from these big think tanks and the collective for the collective in the mainstream, then that contradiction you've got to question a bit more seriously. Well, is it really a mistake? Would they make that mistake?
Yeah.
Or is it done on purpose?
There's a scene in a kids movie. I think it's A Bug's Life.
Right.
And it's about the grasshoppers and the ants.
Yeah.
I'm not going to delve into it too much, but the speech that the king or the head grasshopper makes, like, almost says exactly what you're touching on there. It's about the mind control, effectively.
Yeah.
And they don't want the ants to sort of come together and realize what they're actually telling them.
Yeah.
And the control side of things and the mental games of it, so we say, where they feel they're under the power of these grasshoppers. But yeah, feel free to go watch that if you want.
Yeah, I think that comment was, if I remember correctly, don't give them an inch.
That's it. That's exactly what it was.
If you let one of them,
yeah,
then the rest might follow.
That's exactly it.
You cannot, so keep them down. So, information is vitally important for mainstream to keep on that same, don't give, and that's, again, Quantum of Conscience on YouTube is a brilliant narrator of that mainstream. It goes deeper, and this is where, as a podcast for ourselves, how deep do we want to go? I want to take it to another level to where even people like he go to, because it's important. But at the beginning, when we're just, people are either going to like this and they want to know more. If they don't, they're already switched off, and what do I want to know? I don't need to know about that. All I'm saying is, because you kind of do, because if you thought 4 years ago was bad, okay,
could potentially be.
It could potentially be, and from my perspective and from my opinion and the research I've done over the years, it could be getting a lot more interesting, shall we say, and you need to be prepared.
That's a synchronicity, actually, because either last night or early this morning, that was a thought that came into my head that I'd forgotten about, and it was about how what you've just said, maybe we should speak about that on the podcast today. And it's funny how we've just gone there without even intending to.
Yeah.
It's just brought the thought back up. But so we don't delve deep into that rabbit hole, should we just say, the comment, part of the comment said it's like a television frequency.
Yeah.
And I heard this a while back, about a radio frequency, and you can be in tune to loads of different, there's 100 channels, and you need to pick the one that you want to be on.
Yeah.
The one you want to listen to, you have to tune into it. And it's the same as life, and the same as the open-mindedness. Open your mind, believe that we can sort of tune into that frequency, vibrate on that level, align ourselves with that thought process or that thing that we want to go down or something, whichever way you want to put it. But we can tune in, and we can direct. This is where the open-mindedness comes in, is we can direct ourselves down the path. So touching on what you just said about if you've lost your job and how the mental health can then, you're like, oh, shit, what am I going to do? I've got this to pay, I've got that to pay, I've got kids to feed, this kind of thing. This is where, if you tune yourself into the right frequency, opportunities will present themselves, and it will work out. Something will pop up. You'll find which way you're meant to go. Listen to your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you tune into the wrong frequency, the wrong radio channel, then that anxiety, that mental health game can spiral quickly.
Yeah.
So touch on how, because you're very good at this, is controlling your mindset. You're very good at controlling your thought process on things. You don't let things consume you.
I've improved. I wouldn't say I'm very good at it, because my most critical critique, word and that better, is myself.
Yeah.
So there is, there's no way I see myself as, I've got this nailed. Far from it. But one interesting comment, a bit of feedback I got this week is, you're quiet. You don't show a lot of emotion on your podcast. Can you raise your excitement, your frequency a bit, and it's kind of like people who know me know that I get up and I can be very excitable, etc.
Yeah.
But that's a completely different environment.
Mm-hmm.
The aspect for me of the information is staying at more that 0 point.
0 point, yeah.
And I'm well aware that does mean that it's a bit more dour, do you know what I mean, all the rest of it. But we'll see over the course of the coming weeks whether I pick that excitableness up and just start giving a little bit of a excitement to the crowd that are watching. Now, going back to what was your question about?
So how do you navigate? How do you control your mind? So for me, when I was younger, I used to get emotionally drawn into a lot of different things. Let's just say, one way or the other. And over the years of just like we mentioned on the first podcast, is listening to self-development podcasts, reading books, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You kind of learn to not let anything be a catalyst. I've learned to find what the triggers, should we say. So if something would trigger me, I'll get angry at something. I've learned now to, this is trying to pull my energy, like we spoke about, but it's trying to pull my attention away. It's trying to pull my energy. It's trying to distract me.
Yeah.
I kind of learned what my catalysts are and what pulls me here, what tugs me, and not to let it happen. So how have you learned to, when it feels like all hell was breaking loose, how do you remain calm?
Interesting on that front. The more intense a situation is, like a crisis point,
mm-hmm.
then I find myself, I can go straight into no reaction.
Yeah.
Straight into 0 point. Couple of interesting stories. I mean, yeah, that's certainly a place I could go with this podcast, is share some of the stories that have taken place, experiences that have taken place in my life,
mm-hmm.
Which you'd beggar to believe could even happen. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's something out of a Hollywood movie. You learn from those experiences. This is why if you don't go out of your comfort zone, you just stay in that safe zone all the time, and tying into thinking outside the box, being open-mindedness, okay, is you then open up aspects of yourself that you didn't realize. You find that you're more resilient than you ever thought you were.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you stay in that safety zone all the time, when you ever pushing yourself, we go back to the whole thing with building your muscles up. If you're going to the gym all the time, it's something you have to work at. You have to go out of your comfort zone to build and progress to where you want to get to. So, with that being said, for me, I suppose it is a lifetime of putting myself into situations,
mm-hmm.
pushing those boundaries.
You're dangling a carrot for the audience here.
Yeah.
You're going to have to delve into one.
Not always really safe situations.
Mm-hmm.
And by dealing with those situations, or coming out the other side, sometimes not dealing with them, not in the correct manner, you learn, okay, what am I going to do next time? So going back to the open-mindedness, the importance for people out there who are realizing they need to make change in their lives, they can see that they're not dealing great with the way the culture is, the way the society is, etc. It is a case of, okay, well, how can I think outside the box? What is there to look at? So the importance that you say of being able to focus on one point, it doesn't come overnight.
No.
Okay, it is something that you've got to work on.
Yeah.
Again, use the analogy of going to the gym. So without making that decision to think outside the box and to be a bit more open-minded about where you've currently been, it's a case of making that decision now, mm-hmm. whilst you're still in a semblance of control before the shit hits the fan, and then you've got, oh God, I haven't been building up my muscles to deal with lifting that extra weight.
Yeah, being proactive as opposed to reactive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually find that's you can tie the gym in. If you've been to the gym, I think people will understand. But you can tie the gym in so much to life itself like that.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is just stepping outside. It's almost needing the slight awareness as well. So everyone, like we go back at the moment in the saunas and stuff, the kind of temperature check around me, the conversations I'm hearing is people aren't happy with locally for us. People aren't happy with the situation the country's in. Um, People aren't happy with rising costs, everything like that. And they'll have the conversation, but the conversation is always just them almost stating the obvious, which everyone's feeling, but not necessarily coming up with, okay, so how can we change this? How can we, how can I improve my position? And that's where I think if the open mindedness comes in, and you think, okay, well, we all know we're in a shit situation at the moment.
Yeah.
What can we do collectively, or even individually with just you and your family, or your nearest and dearest? What can we do to change our situation? And I think as soon as you ask yourself that question, what can I do? How do you take that control back, that power back?
Yeah.
How can I change my situation? How can I change my position? That's the start of it.
Yeah, but the change has to be made here first.
And I think that's what a lot of people maybe lack.
So,
or struggle to.
That word conspiracy that we brought up last week, okay, I am not an advocate for going into conspiratorial subjects.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where there's that thin divide line between being open-minded. And I'm not advocating start looking at this conspiracy and that conspiracy. It's not about that at all, because what you're doing is putting your focus and attention on something, feeding that dimension. Okay. And is it helping your mental health? I've said one of the things I said really early on when I started going down the road of looking at conspiracy topics. Mm-hmm. Okay, great to open my mind up to see actually the world isn't. We know the world isn't, the way it is because there's too many contradictions. So you start looking, that open-mindedness of looking into stuff, but you can then get caught in that trap of being completely drawn into that game. And then what are you doing? And I knew at a very early age, on this path, that the importance of doing the internal work was absolutely necessary with looking at these other subjects. Looking at these subjects that, hang on, that official story is such a contradiction on that official story of big events that kind of couldn't have happened like that because there's a contradiction. So when you just focus on that, or focus on lots of different things like that, and you're not doing the internal work, how do you think internally your subconscious is dealing with, oh my God, the world's a completely different place. Oh my God, there's nefarious think tanks, fraternities, etc., that are controlling the mindset of people through programming, through the television, through your radio, through your media, etc., now through the phones. Absolutely, especially. On that front, the CEO of Facebook said years ago, I saw him say it on an interview live, that they have technology in these phones, on Facebook, should I say, a technology that will give you a hit of dopamine every something like whatever, 5, 10, 15.
Something 3 seconds.
Small
amount of seconds.
I think he said at the time it was minutes. But who's to say they can't change that to seconds?
Well,
you wonder why people cannot put their phones down, especially the young generation. They cannot put their phones down. You don't think there's going to be a mental health issue if they can't get to their mobile phones or they can't use a screen? We've already seen banks go down this week. There's the infrastructure with the internet is an issue all the time. It pops out. I mean, our reception here for 4G at the moment is and there has been shockingly bad, and we're in the town centre. It's shockingly bad. So they can switch it on and off at will. And if it does go down, especially with the young generation, how the hell are they going to deal with that?
That's that low frequency vibration.
Yeah.
The tuning in. That's what we're talking about, though, isn't it? When you go down those rabbit holes, when you go, when you're seeking information, but you sway down that road, you come straight down here. You're in a state of fear almost, because you think, hang on, the banks have gone down, the internet's going down, why is it doing this? Why is it controlling it?
Yeah.
Then you start to look into these things, and then that's where I almost feel like your power goes. And I've been down that hole. I've been, what's the point? You know,
Yeah.
the question of what's the point, and you just think, shit, what are we even doing here? But I think once you come, if you do head down there, once you come out, you know, it's better. It is much better because you realise, okay, things may not be as what I've been told or what I think they are, but I can control that now.
Yeah.
I know not to get sucked into my phone. I know not to get sucked into the media. I know not to get sucked into what they're saying or what they're doing. What can I do on my path to control my future, that change my situation?
So that's where that, coming back to that comment that Spring Bean made about focusing more on being able to concentrate and have focus.
Yeah.
He said there on one particular subject. That brings me back to that in itself can be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say, focusing on one particular subject or issue to raise your levels of concentration, etc. Absolutely important to be able to focus and concentrate.
And what's destroying that though?
Yeah, indeed.
The scrolling.
Yeah.
So it all ties in.
But who's to say you're focusing on the right subject?
Yeah.
Again, that comes into what we were speaking about last week, going much deeper about dimensions and going into other people's games. So there has to be a balance between being able to allow in certain information, but not focusing on that information. Allow it, give it a little bit of time and thought, put it on the back shelf.
Yeah.
Okay. The stuff that, this is where intuition is vitally important, because intuition is the precursor to knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay. And that intuition is your spirit. So unless you're able to hear your spirit through that intuition, that quiet little voice, as opposed to having voices in your head that are telling you what to do. There's a difference between divine and demonic, so to speak. And people, the divine, your spirit, your intuition is never going to be loud. It's never going to go, be shouting, making loud noises in your head, etc. That intuition is that quiet, subtle little voice. So when we're doing a HK session, for example, you listen to that first thought. Your first thought in a HK session is a thought that wasn't there a second ago.
Yeah.
And I really challenge anyone, unless you have gone down the road of really focusing and concentrating and being in that Zen mode, shall we say, you try and sit there for just 10 seconds and not have a thought pop into your head. Because that thought, the thing is, people think the thoughts are in their head, but it's not. It's in the field around you.
Yeah.
We are living in an energetic soup, multi-dimensional beings in a multi-dimensional world, and those thoughts that we pick up on are in the field. This is why a good example of that is you look at people who come up with amazing inventions. What happens is that invention is found in one part of the world, and the person's like, yeah, I found this invention, look what I've done. But it's also found at the same time in another part of the world. So how did two people pick up?
Yeah.
And that's because it comes out of the field. You look into that subject in itself, you'll see that that's happened time and time again. So it's in the field that we're in, and the more you're aligned with your spirit, the more your intuition, you're listening to your intuition, you'll find that you're going the right way. So a good little story yesterday. Okay, we want some stories. I had a story yesterday, and you don't know this one because obviously I haven't seen you much this week, but yesterday, literally, I was doing a job. I had to get for a haircut appointment at 3 o'clock. I'm still doing the job at 2:45, and I'm pointing, repairing a patio. I've used a lot of sand and cement because there was quite a lot to do, and I'm down to the last grains of sand cement that I've got left. I
Okay.
haven't got time to do another mix.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to come back and do it again, because then I've already, it's all, that stuff is already beginning to set.
Yeah.
I literally had a couple of grams left of sand cement mix, and I had enough. And I'd set my intention at the start of the job, or about halfway through the job, make sure I've got enough to do the job.
Yeah.
Sort of set that intention with my spirit that I have the right amount. The bucket, there was literally crumbs in the bottom, and finished it all off. I then get in the car. I'm late now. I've told the client I'll be back to clear up, but I've got to go. On my drive there, I was nearly involved in a really hardcore accident.
Right.
So this car, there was a strange thing happened with the lights. First of all, it's a new set of lights. The lights went from yellow to green in a split second. You know, normally your yellow, your amber goes on for a second or two. Well, I've had to drive through it. Okay. And I'm like, well, I've looked in my rear view mirror to see if anyone's there. And within seconds, I'm only maybe 20, 30 yards away from the lights. The car behind me that had stopped is now pulling through the lights as well. And I'm like, well, how have they changed that quickly? Yeah. So he's now driving. The car then behind him, as soon as it gets past the lights, pulls out into the other lane at 100 miles an hour.
Figuratively speaking.
Trying to overtake, pulls back in so it doesn't hit anything coming in, loses complete control of the car. It's ploughing towards me because he's whacked the brake. The car is rocking around like that. It's ploughing towards me. I'm looking in my rearview mirror going, hello.
Oh, shit.
Here we go. He's whacked the brakes on. His car's skidding sideways towards me, but then just veers over to the side and crashes in, comes past me, but crashes into the side of the pavement and on the road. And I'm just like, okay, that was interesting. Yeah. Everyone else around it is just absolutely
standstill shock.
Yep, everyone's just stopped because it's come out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? And I've just gone, okay, I got a haircut appointment. I just drove around and went to a haircut appointment. But it was, in another situation, that was going straight into the back of me. Why didn't it? That's open to interpretation.
Divine intervention.
Yeah. But things like that happen all the time.
Yeah.
And this is the importance of when you're creating your own reality, whether it's the last crumbs of a sand cement mix or whether it's getting to the appointment on time, which I did, which I don't quite know how I did, because it shouldn't have got there on time. Do you know what I mean?
I've worked with you enough to know that things just work out, and I don't know how.
You keep calling me Magic Mac.
Magic Mac.
When we're doing jobs together, like how, it's happened a lot, isn't it?
It's honestly, I've never known anything like it. Just how it's like a storybook unfolding every single time.
Yeah.
And it's like you're talking. Let's just say, for example, we're cutting out loads of joists of wood or something like that, and it like get to the last cut, and then we'll say, oh, we need a bit at this length, and we're going through the scraps of what's left, and we'll have one at exactly that length that doesn't even need trimming. How many times did that happen recently?
Yeah, I know.
So it's too many times, too many different things, too many situations. It's what I'd like to say. It's just an endless unfolding of coincidences with you, but it's obviously not that. Because
no, I mean, it does surprise me sometimes, and it does make me laugh.
Yeah.
And I just thank my spirit for what's taking place.
Like when the metal bar. So we're working on this floor in this room that we're building, and the metal bar, which is like a joiner between the door and the window, just falls down.
Thanks, window fitter.
Yeah. Now I see the bar falling, and you're talking under a second's time, but Andy's not seen it, and without.
Because I've got my back to it, haven't I?
Yeah, you got your back to it.
Yeah.
And then he literally just takes one step, but no,
I was on my knees.
On your knees, weren't you? So you shuffle to the left or the right or something.
Yeah, to my
But
right.
he literally just shuffled, and then this bar, boom, missed him by like an inch.
Yeah.
And I just looked at you in shock, as if like I didn't even have the time to react to stop the bar from falling on you.
Yeah.
Or say anything, but you just moved. It was like divine intervention
every
single time.
I know. The thing is, it's happening so often now.
So often.
Right, that it's just kind of like, this ain't funny anymore. What the hell's going on? But it is funny. I laugh every time because I just think, well, and I don't get carried away with it. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, look, it's just.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And the more you relax in those situations and not reacting, and these things just happen, the more that raises your vibration because you realise something's going on. I had one with my wife couple of weeks ago, and it was so profound, okay,
Yeah.
that I actually decided not to tell her, because I
Right.
tell her everything. Do you know what I mean? She's had
Yeah.
to live with me, bless her heart, talking about hardcore spiritual and conspiracy things for years. And although she isn't as involved in it and
Yeah.
as passionate about it, she's always supported
hmm
whatever I've said. Do you know what I mean? She's not like, you are talking absolute shit, mate. What are you on about?
Nutcase.
Yeah. And along that line, I then provide the evidence to
Back up what you're
back
saying.
up what I'm saying. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? She's like, okay, but she still doesn't get caught along in the energy
Yeah.
of, okay, well, I want to learn this, I want to learn that. She
Yeah.
just goes about her
Goes
life.
with it. Yeah.
So it's been an interesting balance between us two. Do you know what I mean? Me going, oh, look at this, me delving into this, and me delving into that, and her just being like, well, yeah, oh yeah, that's interesting. Now, that part of that journey has been, right, I'm sat here trying to tell the masses, okay, you need to start getting on board with think outside the box,
Yeah.
trust your intuition, um, and see where it takes you, because it's exciting. Life should be enjoyed, it should be played, and we're on that level. Do you know what I mean? As opposed to, oh, this is really serious, and we need to, because you're going back into that lower vibration
Yeah.
again. So a few weeks ago, she's got a very distinct first and middle name.
Okay.
Okay. And I always wondered why her mum came up with that name for her. And I've actually asked that question before, and I've looked into it before, because names are important, what names were given. I'm not saying her whole name online for the simple reason that I ain't got her permission, and she might not want her whole name put on broadcasted over the internet.
And you don't need to get the point across.
No.
To you,
so her first and middle name are quite. Well, I've never heard anyone else's first and middle name called that.
Yeah.
So I've looked at that in the past, because obviously I'm looking deep into my own path, and so this is my life partner. Do you know what I mean? So I've looked at, and the closest it's come to I've seen is the drink Tia Maria.
Right.
All right. So I haven't given it away there, but it's
No,
very close.
Close. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm just like, okay. I looked at that years ago, and I looked at it maybe last year as well, or when Tina's mum was passing. Rest in peace, Liz. And I do remember her saying that that was her favourite drink back when she was, in her late teens or early 20s or whatever. And I thought, you haven't named your daughter after a drink, surely. But regardless, do you know what I mean? It was that was always there. And so, having spoke about it before, having looked at it before, okay, a couple of weeks ago, when I actually came across this artist with the same name as hers,
Right.
and I'm like, I haven't even heard of that artist before. Rhythm and blues, okay, type artist. And it was Quantum of Conscience again who came up in one of his Free Voice Sunday videos about this artist and about the song, the name of the song called Deja Vu. And I'm like, what the fuck? I have a, and again, intuition came in. It's like, oh, I need to have a look at this.
Yeah.
And so I went and had a look at the artist's name and the name of the song, and I was gobsmacked. It was literally called Deja Vu, and it's basically the song, and the frequent loop is, I've been here before, I've been here before.
Right.
And talking about past lives, and I'm like, how have we got to 30 years of our relationship?
Yeah.
Plus, and I've looked into this thing before, and I've never come across this artist.
Yeah.
And I've never come across the name of this song, and it is so befitting of where I've tried to drag, push, pull my wife along with me on my journey.
Yeah.
Of the need to basically be spiritually aware and to look at the bigger picture, so to speak. I'm like, how? And I left her. I didn't even tell her for a week. And then a week ago, I showed her, and she was just like, oh, no. She must have named her. She must have named me after her. Then I said, well, I looked. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because the whole message in the song is wake up
Yeah.
to who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
You are divine spirit. Stop getting caught up in the minutiae in life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? This is a bigger picture. Be aware, and you'll then find that things start falling into place, or you're moving out of place when iron bars are falling into place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or there's cars coming hurtling into the back of you, and all of a sudden they're just,
Move.
you know, that car could have gone any way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was coming at a really high speed towards the back of my car. So when she saw, and I'm showing her the lyrics and I played the song, she's like, wow. She said, oh, my mum must have named me after her. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm sure that's what she said. I'm like, there's one issue with that. She didn't have her first record contract until 1979. You were born in 1973.
Wow. That's another.
The interesting thing about the first name that is used on for this record artist
Mm-hmm.
is it's the way I spell or pronounce my wife's name.
Yeah.
It's not with an I, it's with a double E.
Right.
And I'm just something as I don't know. It's almost like I've had personal Mandela effects.
Yeah.
Okay, which I could share with you now if people wanted to listen to hear that. The personal Mandela effects, where you just know, we've all heard of the Mandela effect. If you're new to Mandela effect, what's interesting?
I don't think it's as common as.
No, well the thing is, I've told people about a Mandela effect. The big one for me, there's two big ones. The big one for me is Mirror, Mirror on the Wall and Snow White.
Yeah.
Okay, that everyone knows Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, Snow White.
Who's the fairest of them all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look now,
right,
it's changed.
Okay.
All right. People will just basically ignore that and say, well, that's just DVD. Do you know what I mean? It's been digitally changed for the modern day, blah, blah, blah. But I have actually gone onto a VHS copy of it and it's changed on the VHS.
Okay.
People will just, you know, whatever, you know, people who, you know, and this journey isn't for everyone.
No.
Okay, this is the point.
It's not for the faint-hearted either.
It's not for the faint-hearted, but you know, some people are not at that level of consciousness, awareness, which is fine. There's no judgment on it. This is really just for the people. This podcast has really been for the people who know that something's not quite right. There has been a bigger awakening since the C of V 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Because there has to be that balance in the universe. If it's going to get, we all know how people reacted 4 years ago. It's just like, my God, it's this massive, around the world, and you're just like, for me, I'm stood there going, wow, I knew this was coming. Just like, wow, how can people not question? You know, you don't have to wear masks because they're bad for you. 1 month, then the next month you've got to wear them to save your lives. You've got to wear them to save your grandmother's life. You've got to wear them to, you know what I mean? It's like, how is that? And people have just gone with it. So, where was I going with that?
Let's go back to the Mandela effect.
Yeah.
Let me just explain. So, this is my understanding of it anyway.
Yeah.
The Mandela effect is where something in, like you said, something in the past is a certain way, and everyone has the same memory of something being that set way.
Yeah.
But then, however many years later, you go back and look at it, and it's actually different to the reality of what everyone remembers that was.
Yeah.
So, for example, the film Snow White, which has been released a few times now, hasn't it, over and over? But in that film, when I grew up, it was Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who's the fairest of them all, right?
Correct.
And that was the same for you?
Yeah.
Obviously, when you'd watched it. But now, if you go back and watch those films, even if it's, like Andy said, on an old VHS video recorder, before DVDs were about, you can play the movie, but the saying Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who's the fairest of them all has changed completely.
Yeah, completely changed.
And it's like, well, it's not just they've updated like a music track with lyrics. Yeah. They've not just because everyone streams now. They've not just uploaded a different track. Yeah. Same thing, but with different lyrics. You're talking about things that can't even be changed digitally or uploaded to the internet or anything like that, physical things. There's so many occasions where it's happened, and I've been down the rabbit hole of the Mandela effect,
Yeah.
where you see loads and loads of them, and there's so many people will bring up more and more different ones, and it's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, what I'm saying is, people who are not at that more consciously aware level, who just kind of go with the collective, with the mainstream flow, they will find, and this is again what I said to you before, how they use their creativity to poo-poo it.
To reason with it.
Yeah, because that in itself is just too big a subject and too big an issue to even be able to comprehend. It's like going up the rungs of a ladder, to see over the wall, to see what's the bigger picture. To go from grade 1, first level, up to the 8th level, it would be too much of a jump. It would send them mad. But they still have that creativity to be able to go, do you know what? It's because, and it's amazing how it works actually.
Yeah.
Um,
but like you said about the 2020 occasion.
Yeah.
The amount of people that found a reason for that.
That's right. But
even when it's not, even when logistically or logically or it doesn't make sense at all.
No.
Oh, but you've got to do it because of this.
Yeah.
And they'll find a reason to.
People looking back on 4 years ago now just tend to completely blank it out, blot it out, as opposed to, but there have been people, again, that balance, there have been people that have gone, I knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
So therefore, they start looking into things. All of a sudden, this whole world opens up to them of, actually, the world isn't as I thought it was.
Yeah.
I do meet people like that all the time, and it's fascinating to watch. What is interesting is those people are gaining that awareness and seeing through and going into subjects much quicker now. Whereas back then for me, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it was a much slower process.
Yeah.
Even with the internet, you were still finding it and it's almost like
everything's sped up.
Yeah, everyone's jumping up to that higher frequency much quicker now. Yeah. Again, we could go into that in and of its own for a whole hour. Do you know what I mean? What's going on there? So, going back to the original subject, but whether that was a personal Mandela effect for me and my wife with this artist and this deja vu. The song is just about wake up to who you really are. Everything that's happened now has happened before. That's the subject in and of itself as well.
Yeah.
The fact that came through Quantum of Conscience, which when I started listening to him because he brings a much higher frequency. He basically is a piss taker.
Yeah.
Over what's going on in the world.
Very sarcastic.
And that I love that sense of humour. It's a bit of a dark sense of humour, but it's done in a high vibrational sense. Like, are you serious? Are you honestly expecting people to believe this? They do, but his delivery is great. So that I've listened to a lot of that over the last 6 months or whatever, and I think probably that listening to that as opposed to listening to more serious stuff, with the Archaics, for example. Incidentally, he just brought out an amazing video this week. Gone up another level on the Phoenix phenomenon. Only come out a couple of days ago.
I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, so having a bit more of a balance with that, even though with Archaics he's very balanced with his understanding of spirit. He calls it the oversoul, just frames of reference. But I think listening to Quantum of Conscience has raised my frequency and taken things. I don't take things so seriously, and I think because of that, I'm wondering whether something like, as you've just pointed out, you've seen so many things happen with me when we've been working together, where you're just like, how is this happening? Do you know what I mean? And how is this now happening? Because you've never experienced it before.
We've spoke about things for a year, 2 years, whatever, different things, and I'm open-minded, always have been, always listen to other points of view and other people's thoughts. So I've always listened to what you've said, but never have I had as much proof as the last 3 months, maybe 6 months.
Right.
So any maybe slight doubting or slight Okay, I understand what you're saying. I can take it on board,
Yeah,
but I have no proof behind it yet to
yeah,
prove that that's just been eradicated from. Like, I'm fully on board with what you've said, and
yeah,
I've seen it how, well, like we said, so many different times, so many different times.
yeah. So really, I suppose as we're coming to a close, I think the main thing to take from this is that reality and our lives individually,
Mhm.
not as a collective, the collective will carry on doing what it's doing. The mainstream will carry on with the programming, etc. People carry on being hooked onto,
The not
hooked into
nils.
those, hooked into those phones, right, and continue and continue. You can't change that.
No.
The only thing you can change is your own reality.
Mhm.
Okay, so you become an observer of what's going on in the collective, and you start manifesting. So that word in itself, manifest your own reality, can be seen as
I really don't like that word either,
no, exactly.
but it's
It's a blanket. Oh, because it just, I don't know. Again, it's probably being hijacked and tarnished in such a way. But
people understand what we mean when we say that.
yeah, yeah, it's a blanket statement. But when you're sharing some of the things that you've witnessed and that I'm now witnessing on a regular basis, okay, it's not because I'm Magic Mac. It's not because I'm some spiritual fucking guru. It's nothing to do with that. It's just literally, do you know? Yeah, people do levitate. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no levitation shit going on in my world,
No.
but I am that open-mindedness. Okay, of well, let's just again what I said last week of going with the flow
Mhm.
and not trying to um, force things, not trying to manipulate things. Just allow things to unfold, and you experience it along the way, the highs and the lows. So creating your own reality, okay, manifesting your own reality. People can then think, well, yeah, I would like to manifest me having a Lamborghini, me having a swimming pool in my back garden, blah blah blah. That's not the point of it. Again, that's falling into the material wealth side of things,
Yeah.
which you're missing the whole point of what this journey is for. You're here to learn and evolve as a spiritual being.
Yeah.
When this vehicle ceases to exist, your consciousness will still exist, your spirit will still exist. And I've had personal experience with that as well. I'm not sure whether I mentioned it in the past podcasts about my out of body experience. Has that been mentioned before? That will be for another one.
We'll save that one.
Yeah.
If you want to hear it, let us know.
Yeah. So
It's about the inner work, though, isn't it?
it is the inner work that is most important.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. And then you're not going to stop living in the material world. You're not going to stop having experiences and going out and enjoying yourself, etc., etc. But you've got to have that intention of progressing forward with your inner self and how you
Yeah.
react to different situations. So
A lot of those material things as well. Once you've done the inner work, the want and the need for them either disappears, or you get a lot closer to realizing, well, I'm not that far away from having these things if I want them,
no, indeed,
because all the inner work's been done.
yeah,
And once the inner work's been done, the outer reality
manifests to that,
manifests
yeah,
to your inner
yeah,
work. Yeah. Which is something that I've learned deeply over the last 12 months,
yeah,
I'd say, is
yeah,
the inner work.
yeah,
You know, instead of, oh, this, like coming from a mindset of lack, like a need, it's, well, I'm focused on myself. I do the inner work. The path will take me where it needs to take
yeah,
me. And if those things are on that path, great. If they're not, I'm on my path. I don't care, you know?
yeah. So the inner work sounds like it's a bit flaky. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit. Well, we've got to sit cross-legged in front of some kind of shrine. Do you know what I mean? It's not about that at all.
No,
We'll
it's
go
just,
more into detail about what
yeah.
the inner work is on another podcast. Um, maybe the next one. If people are like, well, what is the inner work? What have you got to do? Because it's an everyday thing. You haven't got to spend any particular time.
No, that's what I
Like,
always.
because we all know time does seem to be speeding up. Do you know what I mean? No one can. I speak to people who are not, they're pretty much in the collective mindset, and they're like, yeah, I just feel. We spoke to a carpenter the other week who said, I can't get as much done as I used to. It's like time's time's
sped
speeding
up.
up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what's going on with that?
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, the inner work isn't something you've got to go and do and set time aside for. It's an everyday occurrence. So, that is vitally important. Creating your own reality, manifesting your own reality isn't about material things and I'd like this, I'd like that. As you said, that will come anyway with the inner work, because you'll then find that your reality is more malleable. You can create your own things. But
let's pin that down to the gym quick though, because we keep referencing the gym.
Yeah.
It's like, if you look at, for example, your goal is to be fit, have an athletic body, low body fat percentage, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not the gym sessions that get you there.
No.
It is, but it's not.
It's part of.
Yeah, it's an equation of all the things that happen in here, which create that.
Yeah.
So it's you deciding every day to go to the gym. You deciding to eat better choices. You deciding to, instead of going out late and doing whatever, get a good night's rest.
Yeah.
You decided to have the water. So it's a collective thing of these everyday things, and it's the same with the inner work. We've ended up going down there now. I know we wasn't going to, but it's not right. I'm going to set an hour aside every day to do this, and that hour I'm going to do it. It's, you do them things like day in, day out throughout the whole day.
Yeah.
Not just in that specific time. It's almost like when people say, "Our fitness is a lifestyle." It's just self-development, inner work, whatever you want to call it. That's also a lifestyle. You kind of just dedicate yourself to, well, I want to be better, or I want to learn more. And every choice that you make throughout your life kind of equates to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So that manifesting your own reality, creating your own reality scenario is about pulling out the weeds.
Yeah.
Allowing the flowers or the vegetables to grow and pulling up the weeds. Now, if you don't, the weeds take over.
Yeah.
And then you get nothing to eat. Everyone wants to eat. Okay.
Yeah.
We live in a society where we just go to the supermarket, but how long has that been in existence in our world? Before that, that's thousands of years, you grow your own food. So, it's the whole point of creating your own reality, manifesting your own reality, is dealing with the weeds. So we'll go into that.
On the next
That's the internal that you're working on. We'll go into that more in depth next time.
And a good point to end it on, I feel, is the day you plant the seed isn't the day you sow.
Yeah.
You reap the rewards.
So everyone who may have got some value from this podcast, you sow that seed. Yeah, I want to do the internal work. So you sow that seed because it's an intention. Intention comes first.
Yeah.
Mind precedes spirit. Spirit will only do what you set your mind tell it to do, because it's there to benefit. Okay, if you want that experience of being a victim, then it will provide situations for you to be a victim.
Yeah.
Again, that's like, whoa, people will be like, how can that be? Do you know what I mean? And this is the depth of the work. I'm not saying that from a judgmental point of view and letting perpetrators off the hook, but you have to look at it more as a whole, as a holistic thing, as opposed to just focusing on that one thing.
Okay.
All right.
We'll delve into that more.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you're still with us, any comments, again, leave them in. We answer all the comments. We'll even answer certain comments, questions on a future episode. If any part of this episode you want us to delve in deeper into or elaborate on, just let us know and we can do that. And for now, I'll keep witnessing Magic Mac do crazy things.
Like and subscribe, please.